The University of Alberta has just set in motion a number of strategic initiatives to advance our status in teaching and research and to achieve our vision for the university for the year 2000. That vision is to be nationally and internationally recognized as one of Canada's absolutely finest universities as we emerge from this and enter the next century. At this time, we take pride in honoring those units who have already achieved a record of excellence. For 20 years, the Canadian Institute of Ukrainian Studies has made the University of Alberta a nationally and internationally recognized leader in Ukrainian studies. Since Ukrainian independence, the Canadian Institute of Ukrainian Studies has also become a vital resource for government, media, and business seeking to expand contacts with Ukraine. The Canadian Institute of Ukrainian Studies embodies our vision of a highly respected scholarly institution engaged in the discovery and dissemination of knowledge to local, national, and international communities. I send my very best wishes to current and past CIUS associates now celebrating their 20th anniversary. And I especially want to thank the many donors who have so strongly supported the Canadian Institute of Ukrainian Studies and the University of Alberta.
CIUS, the Canadian Institute of Ukrainian Studies, was established on July 1, 1976. Its mandates were to provide institutional support for the development of multidisciplinary academic research on Ukrainian cultural heritage, to encourage program development in Ukrainian, Canadian, and Ukrainian studies at the undergraduate and graduate levels, and publication of research in these subjects. And finally, to serve as a resource center for English-Ukrainian bilingual education. In addition to this, the Institute also assisted in the establishment of creative contacts among professors, writers, scientists, and librarians by promoting seminars, lectures, conferences, and tours. Today, CIUS continues to focus on these mandates. CIUS owes a great debt to Dr. Manoli Lupul and many others for its very existence. After successfully lobbying the Ukrainian community, the University of Alberta, and the Government of Alberta for a Center of Ukrainian Studies, Dr. Lupul was appointed the first director and steered the Institute through its first 10 years. In 1976, Bohdan Kravchenko arrived in Edmonton to assume a position as a CIUS Research Associate. 10 years later, he succeeded Dr. Lupul as the Institute's second director. In 1991, Dr. Kravchenko accepted a position as director of the Institute of Public Administration and Local Government in Kyiv. During the next 3 years, CIUS was administered by two acting directors, Dr. Frank Sisson and Dr. Zenon Kohut. In July 1994, Zenon Kohut became the Institute's third director.
As director of CIUS, my primary role is that of leadership and policy formulation. I look at the academic and even non-academic scene and decide what opportunities there are, and how CIUS can take advantage of them in moving into perhaps new direction. My second chief role is in determining that all the units of CIUS function on a proper academic level. And in that, I also act somewhat like a chief of a board of directors. Since CIUS has expanded rather dramatically over the last, let's say, 3 or 4 years, we have a much larger place with many more individuals involved. The Canadian Institute of Ukrainian Studies is many things. First and foremost, it is the premier research institute on Ukraine and Ukrainians. It is also the major publisher of books on Ukraine, and has produced over 100 monograms, an encyclopedia of Ukraine, and a journal of Ukrainian studies. It is also an institution of community service. First and foremost among those services is the Ukrainian Language and Education Center, which produces the bilingual education curriculum. And it is also a conduit to Ukraine for academia, government, and business.
CIUS has always realized that language is a defining factor in any culture. This is why the Ukrainian Language Resource Center, first under the direction of Olenka Bielash, was created. It was then followed by ULIC, the Ukrainian Language Education Center. ULIC develops and publishes NOVA, an innovative Ukrainian language learning series for bilingual schools.
Our main project right now is the development and the publication of the NOVA Ukrainian Language Development Series. I think that the NOVA series is unique in that it addresses all the needs that teachers have. Our feedback is that teachers say, finally you have given us what we need in order to interest students and in order to develop the Ukrainian language. The Ukrainian Language Education Center, with the independence of Ukraine, has a very important function, and that is to assure that the opportunities that my generation has had to learn the language and interact with Ukraine, that gift is passed on to the next generation. And that we have to ensure that we have the programs, that we have the teachers, that we have the motivation, and that we pass on the reasons for learning Ukrainian.
CIUS also devotes a great deal of its energy to academic analysis of contemporary events. As a result of the Stasiuk Family Endowment Fund, the Stasiuk Program for the Study of Contemporary Ukraine serves as an information center on events in Ukraine for the scholarly community, government, media, and general public.
The Stasiuk program is based on an endowment from the Stasiuk family, and it looks at all aspects of contemporary Ukraine. When it began with a series of conferences on Ukraine's relations with Russia that took place at Columbia in Germany, and a portion of which have now been published. It contains an archive of some rare materials from Ukraine, mainly from the Perestroika period. And it also serves as a resource base for government and non-government organizations on anything to do with contemporary Ukraine. And it also has a research program on current events in Ukraine, and by current really relating to the 20th century. Okay, we have a number of current projects. The main one right now is a book on Ukraine, Russia, and the nuclear question. It's based on a series of conference papers that were given at a conference in Warsaw last year. We also have a second project which is to be more in the nature of a textbook on 20th century Ukraine, and also a monthly or possibly even every 2 months publication on events in contemporary Ukraine, which is a short analysis that's put out over the internet and is available to all people really who are interested in it, whether they be businesses or government organizations.
The Peter Yatsik Center for Ukrainian Historical Research was established in August 1989 due to the generosity of Toronto developer and philanthropist Peter Yatsik.
The main project of the Yatsik Center is the translation and publication of Mikhailo Hrushevsky's History of Ukraine Rus. This is the greatest work in Ukrainian historiography, but also one of the greatest works, I would argue, in world historiography, a tour de force, a magnum opus, which traces the history of Ukraine and the Ukrainian people down to the 17th century. My vision of the future is that the Yatsik Center will become a major institution assisting in the development of Ukrainian historical studies. That is a field which is now of interest to a wide group of Slavists and historians. The independence of Ukraine has changed that situation greatly, and at the same time, a place which will work with the growing historical studies in Ukraine. We hope someday to be able to assist in the writing of a history of modern Ukraine, new academic editions, whether by individual scholars or a group, and then as well to assist in exploring new fields of research which until now have not been carried on either here in the West because of the few number of scholars working on Ukrainian history or in Ukraine itself.
The need for a church studies program has been evident for some time, especially with the beginnings of a religious revival in Ukraine after 75 years of state-sanctioned atheism. Ukrainian churches have also played a crucial role in the survival of Ukrainian identity in the diaspora. Directed by Dr. Sehi Plokhy, the program will study the role of Ukrainian churches in the history of Ukrainians.
Currently we have two main projects on which we work, and one of these projects is the translation and publication in Ukraine of the essays by Professor Bogdan Butyurkiv. Another project is again publication in Ukrainian, the proceedings of the 1921 founding Congress of the Ukrainian Autocephalous Orthodox Church. These are the projects on which we work now, and we are getting currently support from our both communities, Greek Catholic and Orthodox. The mission of the program is to present in a scholarly way the Ukrainian spiritual experience, Christian experience to the outside world. We want to prepare an encyclopedia of Ukrainian Christianity. And for that, for accomplishing of this mission, of course, we'll need a lot of cooperation with our communities, a lot of support, and I'm hopeful that we'll get this support.
Ukrainian-Canadian studies have always been a priority at the Institute. In fact, it has set the standard in the field during the past 2 decades.
Ukrainian-Canadian studies have been an integral part of the Institute since it was first established in 1976. And since that time, we've worked actively to promote research, publishing, and general outreach to the Ukrainian community. The major project right now that the Ukrainian-Canadian Studies program is working on is a 3-volume history of the Ukrainians in Canada. We completed Volume 1 in 1991, carrying the story up to 1924, and right now we're producing the research base for Volume 2. And Volume 2 will focus on the interwar period, which, oddly enough, is the most neglected period in Ukrainian-Canadian history. As far as the future of the Ukrainian-Canadian program is, we definitely would like to grow. Right now it's a small unit. I work part-time and I have various research assistants, but we would like to see it grow and become a more active research unit so that we can probe more than one aspect of the Ukrainian-Canadian experience.
One of the most recent additions to the CIUS project portfolio is the Canada-Ukraine Legislative Education Project. Partly based on a Canadian International Development Association grant, it will assist Ukrainian legislators and policymakers to develop reform-oriented policies and legislation. The Institute is managing the project under the direction of James Yakuta, who is assisted in his work by Dr. Bogdan Klid and Martha Michesor.
The Canada-Ukraine Legislative Education Project is designed to assist Ukraine with reforming their laws and their regulatory system. One of the areas, for example, is the area of energy, oil and gas, coal, nuclear energy, electrical energy. Ukraine has no foreign debt at present except for energy costs to primarily Russia. The benefit of this project is that it will put in place a legal and regulatory framework that will allow foreign companies to come into Ukraine and invest in Ukraine. Right now that framework isn't there and foreign companies are not investing. If we can assist Ukraine in developing policies and laws that are on an international level, we will assist Ukraine in the transformation of not only its legal system, but its economic system as well.
The Canadian Institute of Ukrainian Studies also maintains offices in Toronto, Ontario. Housed in these offices are 3 very important branches of the Institute. First, the Journal of Ukrainian Studies. Initially conceived as a forum for graduate students in Ukrainian studies, and now includes the works of established academics as well. CIUS is currently edited by Roman Senkus.
Right now I'm putting the finishing touches to a large issue of the journal. It's going to be over 300 pages, consisting mostly of articles by Australian scholars in Ukrainian studies. These are the papers of a conference that was held in Melbourne last year. After that will be more issues. I hope that the issues will be coming out regularly, and most of them will have articles on diverse subjects. but there will also be more special issues like the ones we've had in the past. For example, recently we had a special issue on the 100th centenary of Alexander Dozhenko, focusing on Dozhenko as a filmmaker. We've had special issues on Ukrainians in Canada, on 17th, 18th century Ukraine, so we will occasionally still have other special issues of that sort.
Second, the CIUS Press, which is responsible for the publication of over 100 books and 58 research reports. This department is currently under the directorship of Professor Maxim Tarnowski.
CIUS Press is the foremost publisher of books about Ukraine and Ukrainians in Canada. That's a role that I see growing in the future. As an independent Ukrainian state attracts more attention in the world, and particularly in the scholarly community in North America, CIUS Press's role as a conduit for information about Ukraine and from Ukraine can only grow. I see a very bright future for us.
One of the biggest accomplishments of CIUS and a milestone achievement in Ukrainian scholarship was the completion of the 5-volume Encyclopedia of Ukraine. However, work on the project is by no means complete. A name index and supplementary volume are being prepared. Even a second printing on CD-ROM is being considered. Dr. Struk continues to serve as editor-in-chief as well as director of the CIUS Toronto Publications Office. Andriy Makuk has been retained as a full-time editor, and Tanya Steck rounds out the team as administrative assistant.
My vision for CIUS, both under my direction and beyond, is simply that CIUS is the best research institute in the West that deals with Ukraine and Ukrainian studies. I think that we are well on the way of achieving this vision. Now, during various time frames, how that is achieved might vary, since circumstances dictate what are the most essential programs. So the programs might vary somewhat, but the vision remains, in the end, the same, to remain the best.